In this lesson, we're going to learn about first and second conjugation verbs in Latin in the present active indicative. Now, first, let's talk about what the present active indicative means, because you're going to be hearing these terms a lot. Present is the tense. The tense of the verb tells you when it's happening. The present happens right now. Active is the voice. There are two voices in Latin, active or passive. We're not going to worry about the passive right now, but the active tells you that the subject is doing the verb and is doing it potentially to an object. And indicative is the mood. Again, the options for mood are indicative, subjunctive, or imperative. Right now we're going to focus mainly on the indicative mood, and this tells you that you're discussing a fact and that it is part of a main clause. So, let's look at our verbs themselves. Let's start with the first conjugation. Here we have ambulo, ambulare, ambulavi, ambulatus. Most first conjugation verbs are nice because they follow this pattern. Their principal parts end in o, are, avi, and atus. There are very few exceptions to this rule, so most of the time you'll be good. And the first thing we're going to note is this first principal part, ambulo, tells you one thing and one thing only, the I form of the verb, the first person singular, I walk. For all the other forms of the verb, we're going to go to that second principal part, which is the infinitive. We're going to drop off the re, and this is going to give us our stem. And to this stem, we're going to add our endings. You'll note that the stem sometimes has a long A and sometimes a short A, depending on what person and number it is, so do pay attention there. But then we add our endings to this stem, st, mus, tis, ent, giving us our complete set of endings for the present active indicative, o, st, mus, tis, ent. And remember, most of the time in Latin you will not have a stated subject, so these endings correlate with the subject. The O is I walk, the S, you walk, the T, he or she, the mus, we, the tis, y'all, the ent, they. Second conjugation works in much the same way. Unfortunately, its principal parts are not quite as conformed, but you'll notice that the first principal part most often ends in EO, and that the second principal part, the infinitive, always has a long ERE. This will be important when we see the third conjugation, and this will differentiate the second from the third. Again, that first principal part, ardeo, simply tells you the I form of the verb in the present active indicative. For all the other parts, we go to the second principal part, which is the infinitive, drop off the re, and that gives us our stem. To this stem, we're going to add the same endings, ost, mus, tis, ent. And again, those endings correlate to the subject pronoun in English, I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all, and they. So memorize the process of getting the stem, memorize your endings, memorize what they correlate to. This will all be very important.